just leaving with any pearls of wisdom. I think each of your responses have been very very valuable. But anything else you want to add, in terms of your experience of building a good incentive plan? Any founders who are listening to you, what would you want to say to them? And just one other observation, actually, you mentioned people first, but you also mentioned that people first workplace actually drives sustainable growth. Now, if you think about it, it's a very deep statement. It's rooted in, like again, people first and that unlocking that non-linear value. So you want to add something to this, and then Vivek, Nimisha, leave it to you to kind of end this with a few, any more things that you might have missed and you want to, communicate to this ecosystem here.
Sure. Um, I can only tell two three things. I have a very very limited sense of time. Sense of these things. But and Nimisha can add more. She has more. She has spent more time in the ecosystem. She understand more about the people and the organizations. For me, I think the most important message which would like to share with the follow founders, co-founders, is that ESOP is a very very meaningful tool. Like this tool can be used to change your employees into stakeholders and drive ownership. They'll own a piece of your organization. So one thing which we have done, and I'm really really proud of, is that we have distributed, as Nimisha mentioned, we have distributed ESOPs to each of our employees without looking at the designations, without looking at what work they'll be doing, what role they'll be playing, because all of the employees are important for an organization. And I can, it's already said and been done that it's easy to manage stakeholders and it's rather difficult to manage employees. So why not convert all of your employees into stakeholders, right? The quantum can be of choices, can be very very different from each other, but it's really really meaningful when you give ESOPs to all of your employees, make each of your employee as a owner of the organization. The second point I would like to mention, and I think Nimisha already talked about it, is use platforms, use technology to drive these tools. It brings two things. One is it sets you up in a dimension where, because you're working in the technology, you're working with technology day in day out. Why not for your team members first? Right? Why not for your team? So use platforms like Qapita, which we are using. When we did our first webinar, first session for Qapita for our team members, everyone was on that call. There was 0 person who was not on that call, right? uh, Generally in your meetings, one or two people will miss those meetings, and this shows that people are really really interested in programs like ESOPs, and really interested when you give them more visibility towards their ESOPs, their shares, and using technology for doing that. So the second request is to start using tools like Qapita, so that they can build more transparency, give more visibility to the employees. Um, as you mentioned that on about the article, um, when we were writing that piece, I think our with our PR agency, the first thought came into my mind writing that piece was that it's difficult to make a people first organization when you choose your team members before your profit and your product. It's difficult, right? Sometimes you have pressure from X, from Y, and from Z, which you have to manage, and sometimes you see the negative situations of this is really really difficult to make a people first organizations. But in a long run, it's definitely worth it, because your people define the journey of your company, and they decide the goal you will achieve in the future. So these are the things which I think I wanted to mention for all my parallel co-founders. Nimisha, please feel free to add to this.
Thanks, Vivek. Very well summarized. I don't know how much I'll be able to add. But like he mentioned, I think ESOPs are a great tool to create that sense of belonging in the people who work for you. And I think as organizations, we should absolutely utilize them to the maximum to create that whole culture of belongingness and that sense of stakeholder ship that comes in an organization. The second bit around it is make sure as an organization when you're allocating ESOPs, working around them, it's an absolute transparent process. I think transparency in something like this is of immense importance, and it just goes on to reflect the organization's intentions and authenticness, and also build that kind of trust with your employees. So there should be no perceived sense of things not being transparent. So I think transparency plays a key role, and whatever we do around this program, we should ensure that everything is transparent and visible to all. And again, like Vivek mentioned, that using technology is a great idea because then it takes out that human intervention, and it's transparent for everybody to see in that sense. Um, the third thing, coming back to what I mentioned, that I think going forward, and I think the only living dynamic thing in an organization is people. Everything else is just a non-living entity. So I think people will be the competitive edge that will take your organization to the next level. Whatever people policies you have, or whatever ideologies around people function you have, make sure that everything is implemented with the right intention, and the impact is spent in the last user, right? So there shouldn't just be a certain section of people enjoying certain benefits, and the last end user in the organization, or the lowest grade of the employee, isn't feeling the impact. And that's the reason that we even extended our ESOP policy to employees across the organization. So because everybody is important, and everybody is going to help us in our growth journey. So yeah.
Wonderful. Vivek, Nimisha, absolute pleasure to listen to all of these, your own experiences that's reflecting in the way you're stating this. I'm sure these are all very relevant inputs to founders, HR leaders who are listening to you and looking to build their own rocket ships, as we call them these days, to their journey of, whatever that could be, whatever the growth that they are envisaging. So thank you so much. And I'm assuming that, this buyback is not one of its kind. I'm sure there are multiple such events in the offing, perhaps yearly or so, right?
Yeah, we are trying to make them as frequent as we can. Definitely looking at doing more and more ESOP buybacks for our employees.
Wonderful. That's a great note to end, because it's an input to all your employees as well, and also potential people, who might be looking at Grip as a place to kind of spend their time. So pleasure talking to you, Vivek, Nimisha. Thanks for sharing all the insights and being very generous with time as well. We hope to kind of share it with the ecosystem, and pay this forward, and build this, more and more fables of Aesop, as we call it, right? So thank you both for being part of this, and have a good day, both of you.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so much,
Shrikant.
Shrikant. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Thanks for having us over. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Okay,
Bye.
bye.